And I feel like this is an episode of This Is Your Life. I didn't expect that, the kind words or the apology. And I have to tell you, this is a very special moment for all of us here in Daytona. The opportunity to become the custodian of, and not the owners, but the custodian of this sport, the entire realm of motorcycle professional sports in this country is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When we first heard about the new direction the AMA was going to take, I was quick to point out that the AAA did the same thing back in the 50s when it turned out that they didn't feel their future was in motorsports but was in motoring, and it's proven to be very successful for the AAA.
41 million members.
There you go. And I believe that it is the right approach. I have to tell you that when Dennis Ree and Rob sat in my office and presented to me their vision of what had gone wrong at the AMA, it was a stunning thing because all of us in here have been involved with AMA racing, love it or leave it, full of frustration or whatever. But no matter how angry we ever got or how upset we got and how terrible things we said about the AMA, I didn't think I'd ever hear it said by the man who was charged to run the AMA. And that told me, it's my turn now to say good things back, that told me we were dealing with a different element here than the functionaries and bureaucrats who had padded their own nest and looked after their own interests without any accountability to the memberships. And my respect for Rob Dingman went straight up that day. It also piqued my interest. I loved motorcycle road racing. I loved it for years. It was not only something I did, it was who I was. And when the disagreements came up with the AMA and we ended up nose to nose and as litigants in court, it was more than just a financial issue with me. It was really a destructive time in my life. I can recall walking through the paddock and having friends avoid eye contact and turn the other way because they were fearful that association with me at that tense time was going to affect their ability to follow their passion. And that's because we all love this. We all love it, and every one of us, no matter how angry we get, wants to see a successful AMA. And I believe we all want to see the motorsports division of it also be as successful as it possibly can. We've got some of the greatest athletes in the world participating in all of our various disciplines. We just need to do a better job of making that the story, not the controversies that are a natural byproduct of racing, but the performance that takes place on the racetrack. And that's going to be part of our goals. And we are honored and with all humility accept this opportunity. As excited as we can be, I'm trying to be real calm right now. I'm jumping up and down inside. But it's great also as a personal note to look out and see so many old friends that I haven't seen for a long time. And I hope I never experience that dead man walking syndrome again, but that we can reestablish those relationships and together by listening to all stakeholders and find out their views, find out their needs, find out their interests, find out what we need to do to make this thing go as far as it can. We don't claim to have all the answers, and you're going to ask me some questions tonight that I will not have answers for. But I know Hillary says she's ready to be Commander-in-Chief on day one, and I think John McCain says the same thing. I'm not telling you that here. We've got a lot to learn, and thank God the way this contract process works, we're going to have 2008 as a transition year to get up to speed on things on which we know very little. But we do know the fundamentals of the motorsports business. When Jim France called me and asked me to come and start Grand Am, I said to him, Jim, I don't know squat about sports car racing. He said, it doesn't matter. You know how to run a sanctioning body. Come on down and we'll make it happen together. But we're going to do the same thing here. I don't know squat about other kinds of motorcycle racing other than road racing. But there's a lot of people out there who do. And we're going to lean on that expertise and working together with the best professionals out there. We're going to take this thing as far as it can go. And we're going to do it with the full backing of the folks on this campus. And there is no better group of racing people than the ones found right here in Daytona. People laugh sometimes and make fun of the Speedway calling itself the world center of racing. But I got to tell you, it's not just self-proclaimed. This is the world center of racing, not just as a racetrack, but as a community and that campus of people who work in the offices across the street. There is no greater concentration of motorsports professionals anywhere in the world than right here in Daytona. And thank you, Rob, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Roger. And with that, we're happy to answer whatever questions we can.
We've got some roving microphones, so if you want to raise your hand, we'll move around and find you.
Roger, JoeMalley, What's the relationship going to be of the Daytona Motorsports Group with Grand Am?
Well, we're going to share some of the same personnel and the same offices in the beginning, but as we go through 2008, we'll start hiring the personnel necessary who will specialize in the motorcycle program. And as we get the staff large enough, we'll split it off into a separate office. You know, when we started Grand Am, I was the first and only employee, and then we hired Mark Rapoff, one of the most experienced people in sports car racing, and one by one we built up to where we have a staff now in the mid-30s. We'll do the same thing here. But Grand Am is going to be the place where this is all housed, and much of what we do on the road racing side, of course, is going to be taking advantage of the professionals we have in the Grand Am series also.
Roger, can you define, is this a sale, is it a licensing deal, and what's the term? How long does it last?
Well, it's an acquisition, and it lasts as long as we're in business. And so we are not licensing or borrowing or leasing AMA Pro Racing rights. We are buying them. And so we will replace the AMA as the sanctioning body for AMA Pro Racing activities.
So it's a full sale?
Full sale.
I would point out that it does exclude the Supercross and Arena Cross, as those rights are held by Live Nation.
Is the AMA name going to change in the rest of the series, or is it still going to be branded AMA?
No, it'll be AMA Pro Racing. You know, there's a long heritage of AMA racing, and while, again, those of us who consider ourselves to be insiders, we may rail against the man day in and day out, but the fact is the general public considers AMA racing to be the real thing, and rather than start from scratch, I think our best interest lay in taking that brand and taking it forward. This is a departure from what the initial intention was. When Rob first started out, they wanted to divorce themselves from the sport because they felt in many ways the controversy that is attendant to racing was holding the AMA back. But again, we're honored that as a sign of confidence in us, they've agreed that we can use the name AMA Pro Racing to carry it forward, and we're going to carry that banner with pride.
And I would add to that also that it was very important to us in this deal that we maintain the AMA champions and the AMA professional racers will always pursue that AMA #1 plate. And we will continue to sanction amateur racing as well.
A question for each of you, if I could. Rob, how many groups submitted proposals, and did any other group submit a proposal incorporating all the racing properties like DMG?
There was not another proposal that embraced everything that was embraced by the Daytona Motorsports Group. Most of the proposals confined to one or two or I think as many as three disciplines, but none of them proposed to take over the sanctioning as well as the management and commercial aspects. As far as the number, Dennis, what would you call the number? 14 bidders total.
And Roger, do you have a vision for AMA road racing at this point, or is that yet to be determined over the course of 2008 with feedback from stakeholders?
Well, the vision is never, the overall vision is no different than it was for me back in the 80s and 90s. I want to see this sport reach its potential. When we started Grand Am, you know, the same thing. Original idea was simply to go in and try to take sports car racing to the next level. Well, we've gone about 3 levels since where we were back in the beginning. I think that it's important that we find a way to move to true professionalism here. I'll give you an example. I don't think that one rider, one bike, guy getting in a van and going somewhere to race for prize money is professional racing. In other words, the old division used to be if you made a little more money than you spent, or if you had the potential to make more money than you spent, that was professional racing. Professional racing is when you leave home and your bills are paid for by a sponsor and you're representing a company. So our goal is to try to build this sport to the point where there are professional teams who are sponsored and who have an entity of their own, much like Richard Childress Racing is in NASCAR. So that's not just an AMA road racing. That needs to be true across the board. If it comes down to operational issues, obviously I think road racing first and everything else second. But you asked Rob about the proposals. Many good companies made proposals, and now one of the next steps for us is to go out to those companies